Ahead in the news, a 2-week lockdown for the country and Grand Bahama to be reassessed on Friday. Also, COVID-19 numbers climbing for the island of Bimini once again. And confusion on the all-clear for the island of Grand Bahama. Hear why the minister says some changes must be made going forward. The Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition, starts now.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, Northern Edition.
Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Shashina Rolf-Arkeson. As always, it is so great to have you with us. Topping news, the surge in COVID-19 cases in the country and Hurricane Isaias, two of the issues tackled last night by the Prime Minister during his national address. The Prime Minister noting that as a result of the deadly virus, the government is taking quick and aggressive action once again to protect and save lives. Italia Hall has our top story.
Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Dr. Hubert Minnis announcing a national lockdown. This comes as the total number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in the country approaches the 700 mark. The national lockdown, which is set to begin on Tuesday night at 10, will be for a minimum of 2 weeks. Nearing the end of the lockdown period, health officials will assess the health data and advise whether a further lockdown period is necessary.
There has been an exponential increase in the number of cases, an increase in hospitalization, an increase in the demand for intensive care unit beds, and sadly, an increase in the number of deaths. The extension, relaxation, or cessation of the national lockdown will in part be determined by the cooperation of Bahamians and residents alike.
Now, Grand Bahama has been under a lockdown since Thursday, July 23rd, and the lockdown is set to end on Friday, August 7th at 5 a.m. The Prime Minister announcing that an assessment will be made of Grand Bahama nearing the end of his lockdown period, and a determination will be made whether an extension is necessary. Food stores, water depots, pharmacies from curbside or takeaway windows only, and gas stations will be open on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. for the general public, and again on Saturday from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. for essential workers.
The purpose of alternating days is based on health guidelines that strongly demonstrate that limiting movement and having clear days where there is no movement helps to minimize the spread of this deadly disease.
Commercial banks are allowed to operate Monday, Wednesday, and Friday until 1 p.m. Accommodations will be made for international banks, trust companies, and financial institutions to have a skeleton team in office or on the same day.
Construction will be permitted to continue, having regard to the fact that we are in hurricane season. This will be permitted Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., and on Saturday, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Hardware stores are permitted to provide curbside service only Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Private medical facilities are permitted to provide emergency medical care and immunization Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Routine services are suspended. Essential commercial ports are permitted to carry out services. All other businesses and offices are required to suspend operations and are to have their staff work remotely where possible. The National Food Distribution Task Force is currently assisting more than 27,000 households throughout the country and will continue to operate during the lockdown. The Prime Minister says the battle against COVID-19 has been a terrible strain on the country. The nation's leader says COVID-19 is not going away anytime soon, and the country will defeat this second wave. He says he understands the frustrations of many and is aware that pandemic fatigue is setting in as many are tired of restrictions. However, Bahamians must not let that frustration cause their behaviors to change. Italia Hall, ZNS Network News.
Well, as of Monday evening, the country's COVID numbers stood at 679 in total. For Grand Bahama, 320 cases, Nassau 291, Bimini 29, Cat Key 6, Cat Island 3, Berry Island 7, Moores Island 10, Great Guanakee 9, Exuma 3, and the mainland of Abaco 1. According to yesterday's bulletin, there were 14 deaths, 2 non-COVID related deaths, and 22 hospitalized cases. Once again, these are the figures from Monday's dashboard. Stay tuned for the national report for the latest COVID-19 numbers. Meantime, Bimini COVID-19 cases are climbing. The number of cases has doubled since the last lockdown. Tonight, Bimini's Member of Parliament says there is reason for concern. Italia Hall has this story.
The island of Bimini now has a total of 29 COVID-19 cases, while the Member of Parliament for West Grand Bahama and Bimini, Pakeisha Parker Edgecombe, admitting that the recent increase is concerning.
Many residents have reached out and have also expressed their concern, particularly as we came out of a lockdown that we thought was really successful and was able to curb those numbers significantly.
She says some measures must be enforced.
I do believe that at some point we may have gotten relaxed with them, but for the most part, I think that we are going to come together as a community again and fight it once again as we did before.
The Member of Parliament is encouraging Bimini residents to remain steadfast.
I know that this entire pandemic globally is causing quite a situation and us having to readjust our lives. But I do believe that Biminites are quite capable of ensuring the safety of themselves and their loved ones, and that they will again rise to the occasion as we continue to fight this pandemic.
Parker Edgecombe says it is imperative for Bahamians to take all of the necessary precautions in order to protect themselves.
It's important that we carry out those safety guidelines, ensure that we are going out with our masks, sanitizing ourselves, washing our hands frequently, and basically just taking all of the safety protocols that have been given to us. At the end of the day, we're going to have to constantly fight this COVID pandemic.
Italia Hall, ZNS Network News.
The nation's leader also providing an update on Hurricane Isaias during his national address last evening. Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis, along with a delegation, boarded a United States Coast Guard aircraft on Sunday for an aerial view of the damage left in the wake of the weekend weather system in the Bahamas. The areas assessed included Andros, Bimini, and the Berry Islands. Due to bad weather, the aircraft was unable to fly over Grand Bahama. Now, the Prime Minister noting last night that from the air, there did not appear to be much physical damage to structures, but NEMA and the Ministry of Works will continue their assessment and provide the appropriate responses to any need or damage that exists on the ground. The Prime Minister was accompanied by the Minister of Works, the Honorable Desmond Bannister, Director of NEMA, Captain Stephen Russell, Leader of the Opposition, the Honorable Philip Brave Davis, Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for the Western Hemisphere for the United States, who is temporarily the Chargé d'Affaires to the Bahamas, Kevin O'Reilly, and Rear Admiral Eric Jones, Commander of District 7 of the United States Coast Guard. Now, when the all clear was given on Sunday, Minister of State for Disaster Preparedness, Management and Reconstruction, he began his initial assessment. But as Megan Shepard tells us, Minister Iram Lewis said going forward, some changes must be made.
At 9 a.m. on Sunday morning, the National Emergency Management Agency issued an all clear for the entire Bahamas, adding that residents should be cautious due to possible severe weather conditions. However, at 9 a.m., residents in the northern Bahamas were still being affected by Tropical Storm Isaias. Now, although the all clear was given early Sunday morning, Minister Lewis notes that this was not a signal for residents to ride around the island sightseeing. He says the all clear was given for utility workers and essential workers to conduct their rapid assessments. Now, as you notice, a lot of pockets across the island were flooded. Minister Lewis says this could put residents in danger if they do not remain at home. The Minister of State for Disaster Preparedness Management and Reconstruction, Honorable Aaron Lewis, says he believes that the all clear language should be changed as it may entice residents to roam the streets.
I just want our people to just remain calm, just stay at home. We dodged a major bullet. God protected us. It doesn't mean that we out and now get careless. Power lines may be down. There may be some obstacle in the roadways. We may get happy and just become complacent and not pay full attention. So again, even though that all clear was given, and I do believe that that is an international language for Bahamians, even though the however came after that, all they heard was the all clear. So we now have to tailor that language so that it will suit the attitude of our people. And probably we should delay the international all clear, knowing that it means something different to Grand Bahamians and until Bahamians are like all clear mean just for the emergency crew to do the initial assessment. When our people hear all clear, it means it's safe for us to go out. We're going to go sightseeing, joyriding, videotaping, and taking pictures. And so I want persons to remain cautious and just monitor the weather. You can see it's raining. You see it's still windy. Stay inside.
The minister is also reporting good news, as he says the Emergency Operations Center received no distress calls during the night.
We had no distress calls, thank be to God. There weren't any distress calls at all. We had our center open, everyone was on full alert. Our ESF-1, which is the Transportation Department, they did their roving movement yesterday along the western area and the southern shoreline, removing persons who would have likely moved from their place of residence to the shelters, whether it was at St. George's, whether some went to the Royal Island Hotel on their own accord, wherever it was. We had our team on the ground. The police department did their patrols in the western area. Of particular concern was the fishing hole causeway. They went down there and everything was fine. Even with the high water being at 7:45, I believe, last night, there wasn't any flooding condition.
And while no major structural damage was reported, several communities across the island experienced flooding, including the intersection that leads into Taino Beach, the Smiths Point community, and Midshipman Road. Our ZNS News team also drove to the East End communities. While some areas were flooded along the roadways, homes were not affected. Now, Minister Lewis says that assessments have begun across the entire country where it is safe to do so.
We are already doing rapid assessments in the southeastern Bahamas, Inagua, Acklins, Crooked Island, Long Island. We are on the ground now. In parts of Andros, they're doing their assessments. And it's being done now by NEMA and the Ministry of Works because no disaster zone has been declared. If we had made disaster declarations, then the DRA would have been mobilized to go into those areas. But as such, with no areas being designated disaster zones, NEMA and the standing government agencies are doing the necessary rapid assessments. And the Prime Minister is also being joined by NEMA and the U.S. Coast Guard. They're planning a flight to take him on a flyover.
Megan Shepard, ZNS Network News.
Now over in West Grand Bahama, Tropical Storm Isaias produced rainfall up to 12 inches in some areas. Around 12 noon Sunday, Minister Lewis and a team from that district visited the area to determine the level of damage. RJ Philippe was there.
While many Grand Bahamians braced themselves for drenching rains and heavy winds, Hurricane Isaias weakened to a tropical storm shortly after 4 p.m. Saturday afternoon with wind speeds of 70 miles per hour. The southern district of the island and West Grand Bahama experienced the brunt of the tropical system as it continued in its northwest direction towards the east coast of Florida. Our news team made its way to West Grand Bahama to capture the aftermath of the tropical storm, where the Minister of State for Disaster Preparedness Management and Reconstruction, the Honorable Aaron Lewis, gave an update on the Fishing Hole Road causeway based on his initial assessment.
Under normal circumstances, as you can see it from the lower road, there was a level of flooding. We would have had to close down. During this period, because we now have the causeway open up, if there was any need for emergency vehicles to go from east to west or west to east, we would have been able to accommodate them. So I'm very pleased with the fact that this is finished. And looking at even the wave action, there appears to be absolutely no damage at all. So this would have served tremendous asset had a need arisen for us to use it for emergency purposes.
Administrator for West Grand Bahama, Christian Palacios, conducting initial assessment, disclosed her findings.
West End fared considerably well. There were no floodings in the roads. It's just like a regular rainy day in West End. A few power lines down. Boodle Bay area, the same thing, with the exception of Pink Pearl. There's some flooding in that area, but that's it. And now we're headed up into 8 Mile Rock to do our assessments there.
There was significant flooding of 8 to 12 inches of water at the coastal area of Pink Pearl Restaurant in Boodle Bay. As we made our way into West End, winds intensified near the coastal line of the community. According to Minister Lewis, the conditions were still not favorable for residents to be outdoors.
Even at 12 o'clock today, we still have severe weather conditions in West Grand Bahama, and it don't look like it's going to let up anytime soon based on the wind speed and also when you look up at the dark clouds and the way they're moving. So, but the good thing is persons are off the street, and I believe that they prefer to be safe than sorry.
The tropical system brought a lot of heavy rain and gusty winds to the northwest Bahamas, which was expected. The Minister of State for Disaster and Preparedness says his team has been dispatched and now are expected to act immediately to assist residents.
We'll do a post-mortem at the EOC. That's in Grand Bahama as well as in the west, to see what all issues we're faced with, how we can improve on the system. And like I said in many reports, even if we are happy or some individuals are happy with the way things came off, I don't ever want to be, and I want to reinforce, ever want to be satisfied, because I don't ever want to become complacent. I always want to improve on what we have. So we'll do a post-mortem and make the necessary adjustments so moving forward we can even be safer and put ourselves in a better position.
The Southern District of Freeport, that includes Mactown, Hunters, Lewis Yard, and Pinders Point, received little flooding, which was something that Minister Lewis was pleased to report.
I don't see water going into the houses, the road. We can still drive the road. So again, this area is normally heavily under flood water. I remember during Matthew we had about perhaps 3 to 4 feet of water in this area. But of course we're standing on dry ground now. We are one of my favorite spots, the YMTA in Hunters. And as you can see, even though we experienced a lot of high wind, and this is now after 1 o'clock in the afternoon, according to the flood levels, we are doing pretty good because the rain is subsiding a bit, and we're also experiencing low tide.
I'm Jay Philippe, ZNS Network News.
Well, after assessing West Grand Bahama and the Southern District, officials canvassed Freeport, Lucaya, and the Eastern District yesterday. As Ramiko Knowles tells us, officials are pleased to report that Grand Bahama fared well.
The Minister of State for Grand Bahama, the Honorable Kwesi Thompson, says that the island of Grand Bahama managed quite well, but there were several pockets of damage in Freeport and the eastern area of Grand Bahama.
The actual storm skirted to the west of us. Unfortunately, most of the wind and the rain was on the eastern side, and that meant that Grand Bahama experienced quite a bit of rain and quite a bit of wind. We are also getting reports that there was no major damage to the airport, there was no major damage to the harbor, and also that the Fishing Hole Road Causeway stood up quite well and remained open during the entire storm.
Now, it was also reported that no major damage incurred to the island's healthcare facility, as well as the Cancer Association. Both the Minister of State for Grand Bahama and the Minister for Disaster Preparedness Management and Reconstruction, the Honorable Iram Lewis, took a tour of the hospital and say that plans for the phased reopening are still on schedule.
Based on current projections, and progress being made, we still during the month of September, we still expect that to happen. And one of the things that we want to stress is that we're doing phase opening. Critical areas, emphasis being placed on those, the lobby area, the concierge area, the pharmacy, the pediatric wards, the male-female wards, the surgical, the operating theater, COVID-19 section, the temporary operating room. We expect that by the first part of September, some of those areas will be open.
One of the things we wanted to note was we wanted to make the transition into the new COVID unit. Obviously, given the situation that the island is facing, and given that we are going to be facing this situation, I believe, for the foreseeable future, we wanted to make sure that we have the necessary COVID beds and we now have a separate COVID unit that has all of the necessities for a COVID unit, and that would take some pressure off of the Cancer Association.
Emmanuel Way in High Rock is one of the areas assessed by the Disaster Reconstruction Authority and the Ministry of Works. The road was rendered impassable after Hurricane Dorian and was patched to allow movement of vehicles, but the tropical storm has caused damage to the roadway once again. Minister Lewis says funds are being allocated to construct a seawall in the area.
And this is going to be more than just a seawall. It's more like a defense mechanism for the community of High Rock. And now more than ever, based on conditions from just tropical storm alone, we can see that the level of damage, the road, there's a complete washover. It's impossible. It speaks more than ever to the urgency of such an undertaking taking place as soon as possible.
Now that we are in the clear, Minister Lewis reminds all that we are still in the fight against COVID-19 and measures to mitigate the spread are still in effect. Ramiko Knowles, ZNS Network News.
Morning, Bahamas. This is Pastor Norris Bain, Tabernacle Baptist Church, located on Settlers Way, Freeport, Grand Bahama. During these tough times, I just want to remind the Bahamas to be strong and to remember that God is molding us for something great. I heard a story of a man during the Depression years. He lost his job, he lost a fortune, a wife, and a home. But one thing about this man, and this is what we in the Bahamas need to be mindful of, this man tenaciously held to his faith. The only thing he had left, just like many Bahamians today, that's what many Bahamians are holding on to today, their faith. One day this man stopped to watch some men doing some stonework on a very huge church during the Depression. And one of the men was chiseling a triangular piece of stone. And he stopped and he looked and he said to them, "What are you going to do with that?" asked this man. And the workman said, "See that little opening all the way up there near the spire? Well, I'm shaping this down here so it will fit up there." Tears filled the eyes of this man as he walked away, because God had gotten through to him through this chiseling work, this molding that was being done by these people. He realized that whatever he was going through, that God was doing the same thing to him. And I want us in the Bahamas to realize that whatever we're going through, God is molding our life. And so this morning, my prayer is that we give thanks for God for all the shaping he's doing in our lives to bring us closer to him. Remember, I know we might be saying we can't take more, but listen, he'll never put on us more than we could bear. And so if he's calling us to do more, it's because the fire is getting hotter. And if the fire is getting hotter, when he's done with us, we'll come forward, precious like gold. God bless the Bahamas this morning, in Jesus' name.
When we come back, the power company pleads for the restoration of electricity on this island. Stay with us. The Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition, back in just a moment.